Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake, helping you create something awesome today. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Roberto Blake. I'm a YouTube certified marketer, a creative entrepreneur, public speaker, and today we're going to cover some YouTube news and updates, and unfortunately almost none of it is pleasant. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive on a very interesting topic called EU Article 13, also known as the meme ban, and how this affects YouTube and other social media sites that rely on user-generated content and fair use and safe harbor, such as YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, Tumblr, Snapchat, TikTok, etc. This is something that's really important because this is pretty bad when you think about it. In general, the intent of any type of government regulation is usually done with good intentions in the form typically of consumer protections. Think about the idea of the fact that we have safety belts, the fact that we have things that are mandated, such as them taking asbestos out of buildings and out of the schools. Those things are a result of government regulations. However, sometimes there are bad things with unfortunate unintended consequences, and Article 13 from the EU is one of those instances. So this is not going to be a rant or rampage of me being like, you know, an anti-government lunatic or anything like that, and I don't think all regulation is bad, but this is an example of people who don't have to necessarily live with the consequences of what they're doing, having a role in what governs over the rest of us. And again, that's probably the extent of where this becomes political, because it's political in nature, and I hate politics, and I hate that we even have to talk about it, but we do, because this affects the livelihood of content creators. This affects the livelihood of people who leverage social media content and websites for their business, and this affects people who are just hobbyists trying to have an outlet creatively and enjoy freedom of expression. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the Article 13 stuff. YouTube has put out some great information about it, and we're going to run through it. But I also want to give you guys a little bit of a history lesson in YouTube about this. YouTube, many of you don't realize, was founded in February of 2005, acquired by Google in November of 2006, and I believe April of 2007, Viacom filed a lawsuit against YouTube, because of copyright violations, and basically that's what the genesis of Article 13 is meant to address, is copyright infringement. However, YouTube and Viacom came to a compromise after about 6 to 7 years of litigation and court battles, and I'm going to talk about that court case a little bit. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I'm just going to kind of bring you guys up to speed on some of the history of where this is kind of a repeat of the early days of YouTube and what almost destroyed YouTube, because this isn't the first time. And ultimately, it came down to, I think you guys may remember, those of you who've been around a while on the internet, the old days of YouTube, where people used to upload entire movies and episodes of TV shows, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, 90s cartoons, things like that, to the website, to YouTube. And as a result, Viacom was suing Google and YouTube for $1 billion, and YouTube was acquired for about $1 billion. So you can kind of do the math there, and it almost was going to destroy YouTube, and this was back in 2007 through 2013. The end result was a compromise that produced the YouTube Content ID system and the YouTube copyright strike system that we live with today. Now, Viacom has since gotten up to speed on this new digital sharing economy we all live in, and they even bought VidCon. They bought the conference VidCon, so Viacom is not the villain in this story, but I want to establish that a precedent was set that YouTube was almost destroyed on the basis of copyright and the interpretation of copyright law here in the United States with regard to fair use and the concept of safe harbor. And that is going to play a very important role in our conversation about Article 13. So I want to show you something, but before I do that, just want to thank our sponsors, TubeBuddy. I've linked to them down in the description down below, and I got you guys a 20% off discount code. So of course those links are in the description. Thank you, TubeBuddy, for sponsoring our stream, as YouTube itself is not always the most reliable thing. And also thank you to anybody doing super chats. And feel free to ask your questions about this, but let's talk a little bit about Article 13. Article 13 is part of European copyright legislation created with the intent to protect creativity and find effective ways for copyright holders to protect their online content. Now, I have no problem with protecting copyright. I'm a copyright holder myself, as is every content creator on YouTube. We all have copyright. If you're an illustrator, you have copyright. If you're a musician, you have copyright. So it's not like anyone wants, or at least from my point of view, the majority of people are not okay with people stealing someone's copyrighted work. That's not what we're defending here. YouTube goes on to say that while we support the goals of Article 13, the version written by the European Parliament can have large unintended consequences that would change the web as we know it, and there's a better way. And I agree, there is a better way, but here's where I take issue. And again, there's a lot of people on YouTube talking about this, and more people should be talking about this. I'm planning to do a video that will be on the main channel that'll remain up and will be something that I have to script a little to cover all the main talking points concisely, even though I don't love doing scripted content, but that's why I'm doing a live video with you guys to talk about it candidly. But here's the thing. And, like, here's one thing. Oh, by the way, if you guys are wondering why I don't leave the live streams public anymore, they're unlisted, and you have to either bookmark the link or go to the community tab and grab it or whatever, or go to my live stream playlist. It's because of the YouTube algorithm, and ultimately at some point I might have to do the live streams on another channel because it does negatively impact this channel because of the algorithm, or I'll have to make a live stream channel or something, or use one of my other channels. I'll figure it out, but for the meantime I'm just going to unlist the videos because that hurts a little bit less the impact, but it's not a permanent solution. And you see a lot of people starting live stream channels specifically because, yeah, it's not a perfect system. There are more things wrong with YouTube than Article 13. We're going to focus on Article 13 today because I ain't got that kind of time. Anyway, and I am going to hit up that super chat here in a second. Demi Hardoff, thank you. Just to get the super chat started, appreciate the live streams and your hard work. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. But Article 13, the text of it is so vaguely written as to hold platforms like YouTube and Reddit and Instagram and Snapchat accountable and liable legally for infringement, that would get so expensive to where they can't do it. And that is something that was wholly unnecessary. And here's another problem. It requires the platform and content creators to act in good faith, but it doesn't require the media companies to act in good faith when it comes to false copyright claims or mistaken copyright claims. The language is written completely in the favor of the media companies, the movie industry, the music industry, all of those, the publishing people, all of those people. Which to me, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, it just seems to me like somebody lobbied the European Union and Parliament and greased the wheels because they knew that that would never fly in the United States. It'd never fly. It would never happen. You weren't going to get that to work. And so it seems to me, and again, I can't prove it, and again, this is just in my opinion. This is, just in my opinion. I just think that this is shenanigans, frankly. And you'll see why I say that in a moment here. What is Article 13? Article 13 is one part of a proposed European Union copyright legislation created with the intent to better protect creativity and find effective ways for copyright holders to protect their content online. There's a link to the official text if you go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet and go to the FAQ section. To be clear, while we support the goals of Article 13 and its push to help creators and artists succeed, we want more effective ways for copyright holders to protect their content. But Article 13, as written by the European Parliament, will create large unintended consequences for everybody, so we're asking to find a better way forward. Now, by the way, this language, and this has already passed Parliament, and it's on the way to potential implementation, so that's problematic. But the thing you have to understand about this is, if the idea and the goal was to protect copyright, there's sufficient laws in place to protect copyright. And the YouTube Content ID and copyright system, while not perfect, does on some level require media companies to act in good faith in claiming their content if it's in violation. And that should be good enough. And that should be good enough. And it's not like they're losing a significant amount of money here in terms of potential revenue loss. That's not how any of this really works. So this is something that's been trumped up to essentially give the media companies, the publishers, the movie and music industry, specifically the music industry, leverage here. That is not really necessary on their part. What changes with Article 13? The proposed version of Article 13 would eliminate the existing notice and takedown system currently in place to protect right holders and platforms. For those of you on YouTube, copyright and content ID. This would make platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and Dailymotion, and Reddit and Snapchat liable at the moment of upload for any infringement in uploads from users, creators, and artists. This would in turn mean that platforms including YouTube would be forced to block the vast majority of uploads from Europe and views in Europe for content uploaded elsewhere, given the uncertainty and complexity of copyright ownership. Now, here's why this doesn't just affect Europe. The problem is that almost all these media companies are global spanning organizations, which means when it comes to enforcing their protected copyright, they'll use the most punitive law available to them across the board, which means this bleeds over from being a Europe problem to being a content problem globally and worldwide. Here's the other unintended consequence that nobody on YouTube is talking about at all because it goes beyond YouTube. And I'm going to switch screens real quick for this one because I want to talk to you guys directly here. If they pass this, any thought or hope you had of there ever being a competitor to YouTube, a competitor to Facebook, a competitor to Instagram, a competitor to Snapchat, anything new and innovative in the landscape of social media or content platforms that you might have dreamed of someone building or building yourself, if you ever had dreams to create a YouTube, a Facebook, a Snapchat, an Instagram, or something cool that relies on user-generated content, that dream dies with Article 13. That dream dies with Article 13 because if this is implemented, a small startup, a bootstrap or dorm room operation of someone building a cool site, an app with user-generated content, that could potentially involve a copyright of some kind. The burden of that would no longer be protected from safe harbor laws, allowing that person to just take that down and not pay a fine. That means that anybody starting a social media site would not be able to afford the litigation and the liability, and it also would scare off almost anyone innovative or creative from even trying. Which means we'd get no new social media apps if this passes, potentially, unless they come from an established company that, could afford the lawsuits. And this is something even MatPat didn't bring up in his video about this today, is that if you wanted to build a competitor to YouTube in the future, this law, this thing, Article 13 from the EU Parliament, would make it so that you would have to eat it in terms of any litigation and any liability for some user who has a copyright infringing piece of content. So that is really bad, not only for content creators, but for developers, for startups, and new social media platforms. I really want you guys to think about that. Someone's asking, but couldn't they just pre-screen all content? They already do that, but this legislation, as worded, makes that not good enough. This makes that not good enough. So that means no more derivative works, no more parodies. Now, ultimately, a channel like mine, for the most part, would be unaffected by this. But it does mean that if I wanted to do a thumbnail that was something like Wreck-It Ralph exposes the YouTube algorithm, because they did the new movie Ralph Breaks the Internet about the character Wreck-It Ralph. It's funny because in a way I felt like it did expose the YouTube algorithm. If I wanted to do a thumbnail that had Wreck-It Ralph in it, which by modifying that would count as fair use, that would not be protected in this particular case. And it's like, oh, well, I can't do that, which means I have to do a more boring thumbnail than I would normally want to do. If you wanted to do, a thumbnail that was kind of a meme of Thanos or something with the snap from Marvel, well, this says you can't do that. So, I mean, those are basic things. So, which means even if my actual content is completely fair use and like with doing something like that, it's out. But even if I do completely original content, which is what I normally do, where I don't use other people's copyrighted images or materials, here's the problem. Even if I want to make a thumbnail that should be fair use just to be interesting, I can't do that. So this is problematic for even content creators like me who are 99% safe on this. That 1% of it is problematic. So again, if you go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet, you can find out more information about all of this. But I just wanted to talk to you directly about the even greater business implications that this has. Because again, it's more than YouTube. It affects all the social media platforms that exist, but also could potentially stop new social media sites from even being born. So just kind of, think about that. So, again, this is a problem for a lot of reasons. And guys, please share the stream. And again, the replay won't be up publicly because the YouTube algorithm sucks, but it will be unlisted once it renders. So make sure you're sharing that. And again, later in the week, I'm going to have a shorter scripted video that hits my main points here, because I'm basically just going over the bulk of it and my thoughts with you, unedited, unfiltered right now. So here's what YouTube suggests would be the impact if the European Parliament's version of Article 13 passes without them changing the wording. The risk associated with accepting content uploads with partial or disputed copyright information would be far too large for platforms such as YouTube. They're talking about the financial liability. As a result, YouTube would be forced to block millions of videos, existing and new ones, in the European Union. It could drastically limit the content that one can upload to the platform in Europe. Now, what I'll elaborate on here is that also means if you have an audience in Europe, they may not be able to get your videos. So that could also hurt your growth, your view velocity, hurt you in the algorithm. It could mean that subscribers that you had in the UK become ghost subscribers instantly. So that could be a problem. Creators would be especially hard hit. Videos that could be blocked include educational videos from channels such as Kira Guest in Germany and CGP Grey in the UK, a large number of official music videos like Despacito from Luis Fonsi or Myfosa from L'Artiste, fan music covers, mashups, parodies, and more. Now here's the interesting thing about that. Even when the rights are granted, if there's any portion of the video where they can't verify who the rights owners are, it's gone. That's how punitive this is. There's no room for error and there's no room for fair use and fair dealing. It pretty much makes fair use worthless at this point. As such, Article 13 threatens hundreds of thousands of jobs, European creators, businesses, artists, and everyone they employ. Yup. What does this mean for me as a YouTube creator or artist in the European Union? YouTube and other platforms may have no choice but to block your existing videos and prevent you from uploading new ones in Europe, in the European Union, unless you can prove that you own everything in your videos, including visuals and sound. So the burden of proof is on the content creator. They have no such burden of proof or penalty for any losses that applies to the media companies or publishers if they falsely do this. And the European Union and the media companies aren't going to be liable for any loss, apparently, regarding this. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I would hope and I would think that basically I would imagine that European content creators and independent media companies and video houses, I would imagine that the laws are different than they are in America, but I would have to imagine they could do something in the form of a class action lawsuit. If you're a European creator, please hit me up and let me know if and why all the creators in Europe couldn't put together a class action lawsuit and directly sue the European Union. And why is that not a thing? Because in the United States, if the U.S. did this, because here's one for you guys. If this were something, and this is why I'm personally, just me, this is just my opinion, I can't prove it, this is my opinion, I'm convinced that media companies or the music industry lobbied, potentially bribed officials in the EU to move forward on Article 13, because imagine if the media industry had lobbied in America for this, in the United States. If something like this went to legislation in the United States, first of all, every YouTuber in America would definitely have made a video about it and would have been screaming about this, especially during midterms. Again, I hate politics, but every YouTuber would have crossed whatever party lines they needed to, essentially, to denounce this and to say don't vote for anybody that supports this, which I'm surprised we didn't do with net neutrality, which we should have, which I said we should have. Not vote for anybody, draw a line in the sand. If your business is on the internet, if you are a content creator, you can't vote for anybody who opposes keeping net neutrality, no matter what else you disagree on. They are directly impacting something that affects your livelihood and setting precedent for things like Article 13. You know, giving control over to the ISPs, we can't trust them to act in good faith. Now we're going to give it to the media companies and publishers and tell them that they're the only ones who don't have to act in good faith. But YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, all these people have to act in good faith. All content creators have to act in good faith. But the media companies don't, and there's no punitive damages for the media companies if they get it wrong. That seems completely unbalanced. Who would agree to that? Who would do that? Somebody that benefited from the media companies doing that, which would be the media companies, and anybody that maybe helped them out with getting that passed. I don't know. You know, again, not throwing conspiracy theories out there. I'm just telling you what I think and how I see it. And that's, I don't trust any of this. So, again, I'm ranting here, but if they tried this in the United States, first of all, in the United States, YouTubers would have boycotted every politician and mobilized their followers, and it would have been a mess, and the media would have lapped it up. So that's number one. If they had done this in the United States, you know what else would have happened? Every YouTuber in the United States would have came together, probably in North America, probably Canada too, would have came together and formed a class action lawsuit. And YouTubers would have sued the United States government if they tried this. And probably won. I'm not joking. If they had tried this in YouTube, if they had tried this in the United States, if they had tried Article 13 in the United States, every single YouTuber here in the US would have gotten together in a class action lawsuit. I'm telling you. And we would have probably won. We would have crushed that. But things are different in the EU, and the media companies are global spanning organizations. So if I were a multinational, multi-billion-dollar media company and I was sick of people on the internet benefiting from our copyrighted content, this is maybe the kind of thing that I would have leaned on the European Union or government officials to try to implement. Because, I mean, that's what smug, rich people do that don't have any skin in the game and don't care about other people. Again, in my opinion, I'm ranting here. I'm just really upset about this, that's all. So let's get back on track, though. What does this mean for me as a YouTube creator or artist not in the European Union? YouTube and other platforms will likely block your videos, including existing ones, to users in the European Union if there is partial or disputed copyright information. Yeah, so even if you're not in the EU, this kind of sucks. Number 7, what types of copyrighted content would I not be able to use in my videos? Examples of copyrighted material possibly impacted in your videos include images, artwork, software, excerpts from books, music, parodies, and more. Which means even tutorial channels. Even tutorial channels. It means that if I want to teach you how to use a piece of software, I can't in the UK. Like, it means all of my Photoshop tutorials, all of my Premiere Pro tutorials, all of my video editing tutorials, any software tutorial that I do, they don't want me to teach you how to learn to use this software. And that means that if you wanted to learn from me how to use this software so that you could get a better job or so you could start a business and you're in the EU, you don't get that content. You don't get that information. You don't get free education. I can make free education that's competitive with college courses and try to give it to you for free, and the European Union says, no, you can't get that content for free. So even education channels, even something as innocuous and benign as teaching you software, offering you a free skill that could benefit your livelihood, give you a job, their answer is no. So again, if you're in the EU, I really would love to know, is there any chance that European content creators, or even us here in the States, is there any remedy in terms of a class action lawsuit? Because YouTube and the YouTubers that have done videos about this have said, well, you know, create awareness, which totally great. Use the hashtag #SaveYourInternet. I would love for this to go even further. I want to know if there's a legal remedy in the form of a class action lawsuit. So somebody contact a lawyer that's familiar with this kind of thing and find out if there's room for a class action lawsuit. I am serious. Can we sue the European Union? Can we sue every member of Parliament, even individually, that votes in favor of this? I want to know. Furthermore, if you're in the European Union, I'm not 100% on how government officials and parliamentary officials are elected or how they retain their seats in Parliament. But if you can vote out anyone over 40 from now on, I'm going to say that's probably in your best interest. Because I don't really feel it's in your interest to have a governing body that doesn't understand the 21st century and the economy of the 21st century and is more interested in siding with the corporations than the individuals that are building the new economy in the 21st century. So I'm gonna go kind of more in that direction. And as wrong as it might sound, in America, I might try to persuade people to go in that direction too. I might really become ageist outright when it comes to this because I'm getting irritable. I'm getting irritable about people who don't know how to use email, governing over and writing legislation that affects businesses built in the 21st century. I'm getting really frustrated with it. And my version of doing something about it is maybe I don't like politics. I don't really want to get involved. I don't like either party in this country, to be very real with you guys. I don't really talk about it much. But here's what I do know. Anybody that's anti-social media, anti-gig economy, anti-internet, I'm done with them. Period. I am completely done with them. And I might have to get loud in my own way about it in the form of throwing money at the problem. And getting other people that have built their businesses in the 21st century, in the new economy that is the internet. I might, again, I won't get loud publicly in the old media where they care about it. I might not even do it loudly on the internet in a very public fashion. I might just continue to talk about it candidly, privately, at the conferences with the movers and shakers who have the 7 and 8 and 9 figure businesses that were built on the internet. And I might encourage them to put their money toward only people who are pro-internet. And I might encourage them to put money specifically doing something about people who are not pro-internet. And, you know, that's where I'll leave it at. That's me though. That's me. And again, sorry for the ranting and the rambling and the let's get back to this. Because again, this is very important, but I'm getting myself worked up and agitated while I read this because I'm infuriated. Why aren't copyright matching tools like Content ID enough? Yeah, why aren't they? With Article 13 as currently written, copyright matching tools like Content ID wouldn't help platforms such as YouTube to keep content on the platform. Content ID works if right holders use it and provide clarity as to what belongs to them. However, in many cases, information on copyright ownership is missing, or there is partial knowledge, meaning that no system can accurately identify full copyright information at the point of upload. Short translation of that. They're lazy. They don't want to deploy resources and employees to deal with it, and they are so butthurt about the possibility of losing a single dime that they'd rather take a whole dollar from us. That's the short version. That's what that means. Just, again, let me make English into English. Why isn't Content ID good enough? Because a company would have to actually use it, which means paying somebody a salary to sit there and to manage copyright ID and content and to do it properly and to not mess it up. And they also would have to trust YouTube's system. And they're not interested in any of that. So they would rather put the burden on YouTube to say, hey, if you mess up and something copyright-ridden gets out there on the internet, you're going to be liable. So YouTube's answer is going to be, well, we're not going to pay for that. And the YouTuber certainly can't pay for that. So we're just going to block the video completely. Like, can't take any chances. If there's any chance that the video has anything that could possibly be copyright or we're unsure, it's done. It's dead. So that's what that means. YouTube's version is said, put simply, a piece of content with partial or unknown ownership is to YouTube treated the same as a piece of content that is unlicensed and so would have to be blocked. Here's the other problem with that. YouTube's classification system isn't perfect. YouTube's algorithm isn't perfect. How many of you, like, if you've ever known yourself to have seen that I put out a video and have not gotten a notification from YouTube about a video that I put out, type the number 3 right now in the live chat. In the live chat, type the number 3 right now if you know I uploaded a video and you didn't get a notification, as I want to show you guys in real time how broken YouTube is. So if you've ever known Roberto put out a video and I didn't get a notification and I subscribed to the channel and yeah, number 3. So for every one of these little troll turds, whoever gives me a crap about my view to subscriber ratio, I'm going to virtually punch them in the mouth from now on, because my view to subscriber ratio would actually matter if YouTube actually delivered people content they signed up for. So yeah, a very flawed and imperfect system that doesn't operate and do what it's supposed to majority of the time, and I wasn't going to go here beyond the bare bones. And that part doesn't work properly. And so I can kind of understand the media companies not trusting Content ID. I also think that they're not losing enough money for it to matter. Just saying. The other thing is, even when they use the system, they get it wrong. We talked about this just a couple of weeks ago when the anime community was practically like Thanos snapped out of existence on YouTube because Shueisha, a media company rights holder in Japan, went on a rampage and was copyright striking down videos. Kryptonian Saiyan had to start completely over. Geekdom 101 was on the ropes with like almost 600,000 subscribers, was worried that his channel was going to go down. Kryptonian Saiyan had like 90,000 subscribers. There were a ton of channels, even with silver play buttons, that evaporated overnight because one media company didn't use Content ID properly, abused it, did it in a misinformed fashion, and there was no remedy because YouTube has to bow to the media companies. This would give more power to said media companies and not obligate them to act in good faith. And it doesn't offer any remuneration, any punitive damages for the media companies when they get it wrong. There's nothing holding them accountable. Number 9, is there a better way forward with Article 13? Yes. We're asking lawmakers to find a better balance. We all need to protect against copyright violations and still enable European users, creators, and artists to share their voices online. In order to do that, we need a system where both platformers and right holders collaborate. What this means is really 3 things. Right holders should work with platforms to identify the content they own so the platforms know what is protected under copyright and can give right holders control to block these if they choose. So that's actually really simple. That would be a simple system where across the board, and not just with YouTube, where all of these media companies could basically upload an inventory catalog. The problem is that that would be work on their part, and they would have to hire people to catalog, and they would have to have a universal system and work with all the social media companies to build this universal system. That costs time, that costs money, that costs manpower, and they would rather spend that money on lawyers to sue these platforms into oblivion than just make it so that their stuff could properly be protected. Which says to me that they're not acting in good faith. They're not really out to protect their copyright so much as to hold everyone hostage. That's what I personally believe. I don't think that's them acting in good faith. YouTube suggests that platforms should only be held liable for content identified to them using tools like Content ID or through notice and takedown. I agree, 100%. Good enough is good enough. This was good enough for Viacom. Why isn't it good enough for everyone else? Viacom's the largest media company in the world. Why isn't the precedent of the Viacom v. YouTube Inc., which was, again, July 2008, I believe, well, actually on March of 2007 is when they filed the lawsuit. But again, it's been since remedied since 2013, 2014, which again was based on the provisions of safe harbor within the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, etc. But again, that's American policy. That's the U.S.'s policy regarding copyright and fair use and fair dealing. The digital economy, from my standpoint, is part of a global ecosystem of entrepreneurship and opportunity and commerce. Commerce that needs a unified, codified set of rules and regs that are in the best interest of everyone, that is truly fair and balanced. Because the global economy means that every single one of us can sell or buy using the greatest system of all time, the internet, to choose with our wallets what the market should have and shouldn't have. There is nothing more democratic than that. There's nothing more meritocratic than that. It is the backbone of what truly makes the 20th century the greatest time of opportunity. It allows people to take an idea, a thought, make it a thing, and then deliver it to people without the need of gatekeepers. I want to talk to you guys about this for a second. There was a writer. His name was Andy Weir. You guys might know him as the author of The Martian, which went on to be a blockbuster of a film with leading man Matt Damon and was produced by Miramax. But it almost didn't happen, and wouldn't have happened without the 21st century economy. Because when Andy Weir went shopping his idea to the publishing companies, the old school media companies, the gatekeepers of the previous century, okay, and the centuries before that with regard to publishing, they all told him no. They all told him his idea was stupid and that he wasted 2 years of his life compiling this book and this story and that no one would publish it. Every publisher turned him down. He went to Kindle and to iBooks and he published it directly on his website and to his fans, and guess what happened? He was an overnight bestseller with 30,000 sales in Amazon practically overnight. And because all of these old school publishing companies troll the Amazon bestseller list, this guy that they had told down, this guy that they had told him to screw off, he was able to go directly to the market, and you and I and everyone else decided The Martian was a great story worth reading when the publishers who thought they knew better, the czars of taste, the critics, thought they knew better, but the market decided. And that could not have happened without the 21st century digital economy of the internet. Okay? The 21st century economy of the internet says that you don't need the gatekeepers at the publishing company. You don't need broadcast cable television companies. You don't need the music industry that's run like the mafia. They don't get to decide what you and I get to consume anymore. We get to decide by awarding and rewarding people in the market with our own dollars and cutting out the middleman through platforms that are the new middlemen, but are gatekeepers, not to that extent anyway, such as platforms like YouTube and Amazon and Facebook and Instagram. We get to decide. But when you have things like Article 13, it takes the democratization of marketing and sales and consumer choice away from people and puts it into the hands of the media companies allied with the government. The worst thing that you can have is an alliance between corporations and government not acting in the best interest of consumers and not listening to the market. The worst thing you could have. Think about it. So, with that in mind, understand that if it wasn't for the 21st century economy, one of the greatest films of the year at the time it was put out, one of the best-selling books of all time, would not have happened because somebody in a position of authority or several people in a position of authority decided for us. Decided for us. That is the problem here. And that's why Article 13 is so problematic, to use that word in the proper context. And so this is something that should matter to all of us because opportunity should not be stripped away from consumers and creators. We should have that right. We should be able to decide what is going to survive in the market and what is not. They shouldn't have that control. Platforms and right holders should negotiate in good faith, where licenses and rights can be identified. I couldn't agree more. Rights holders don't want to negotiate in good faith. They want to hold everyone else accountable, and they want no accountability for themselves. What can I do to help find a better way forward with Article 13? European representatives are still working on the final version of Article 13, and there's time to work together toward a better path. If a better path is not found, and you're in Europe, I'm going to plead with you. I'm not as familiar with how the European Parliament and the representatives in Europe work. I'm going to tell you, vote out anybody who's anti-internet, anyone who's anti-social media, and if it really comes to it, vote out anyone over 40 or 50. Because they don't have to live with the consequences, and they're not part of the internet culture in the way that we are. And that sounds very ageist. It sounds very discriminatory or derogatory toward people of a certain age. And I know there are exceptions to that rule, but if it's too much for you to parse that and to figure out where people stand, or if people are not clear where they stand, vote the generation out that doesn't believe in the internet and doesn't believe in the digital economy. And that's my answer to it. Again, you can pressure them, you can plead with them, and if that fails, vote them out. And then have it repealed. Assuming that that's how it works over there. Because again, my experience has more to do with the US than the EU. I'm not an expert on that, nor am I a lawyer, nor do I understand everything about parliamentary proceedings. My understanding is very rudimentary at best. There's a lot that I'm probably woefully ignorant about that, but I would imagine that there is some remedy in terms of representation by the people, or there should be. And I would ask you to act on that. The European policymakers involved in negotiating Article 13 need to hear and see that real people could be negatively impacted if Article 13 goes into effect, as written by the Parliament. That's why we need you and your fans to make your voice heard now. Couldn't agree more. You know what also they need to see? They need to see that it would hurt them in terms of keeping their seat, because that's what they really care about. Make a video about Article 13. Have at it. I'm going to make another one because, again, I don't keep the live streams up because YouTube algorithm. So I'll make a concise video about this. Tweeting about Article 13 and use the hashtag #SaveYourInternet. Tweeting, it helps sometimes, believe it or not. I know that sounds naive, but it actually does help in more cases than you would think to actually put your voice out there. I mean, that's what we're all here trying to do. And joining the movement at youtube.com/SaveYourInternet. And it's a great resource. They have a lot of information here. It's what I'm using as the main resource here to show you that has a lot of good information that can help you understand this particular struggle. Is YouTube alone in this fight? The copyright directive won't just affect creators and artists on YouTube. It will also apply to many other forms of user-generated content. Many people are raising concerns, including organizations like the European Digital Rights, Internet Archive, Reddit, Patreon, WordPress, Medium, Internet original architects and pioneers like Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the UN Special Rapporteur for Freedom of Expression. Creators across the internet are standing up, such as Philip DeFranco, LaFloyd, and others. So yes, I definitely believe in making your voice heard on this. I know I'm certainly getting a little loud about it today, and I apologize for everybody's Saturday. Yeah, but this is a big deal. I'm obviously very passionate about it. I'm very frustrated by it, and you guys are the recipients of my ranting as a result. So again, apologies for that. Which countries are affected and directly impacted by Article 13? All member states of the EU, Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Republic of Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, and the UK. At least for now. There's more about Brexit and how this impacts it. So one last thing they have here is some common myths and misunderstandings about Article 13. So myth number 1, Article 13 will protect small creators and artists while ensuring they're paid fairly for their work. Wrong. No, that is not how it works. Right holders should be protected from piracy and compensated fairly for their work, but the current parliamentary proposal of Article 13 unintentionally harms small creators. Fancy that. Couldn't imagine. It favors big media conglomerates and crushes the little guy. Wonder how that happened. So, yeah. Not surprised that that is a myth that they're using to propound about this. Article 13 is already law in the EU. No, it's not. Right now, Article 13 is part of the European Union Directive on Copyright, and in the digital single market is being finalized, which means that, yeah, it's on their desk, but it's not over until it's over. Myth number 3, YouTube is against Article 13 as they're known for compromise. Fact, YouTube supports the premise of Article 13 to pay rights holders fairly, but this legislation must be written carefully. Working with the industry and lawmakers, we can find a solution within Article 13 in which right holders have the responsibility to identify their copyrighted material, and platforms work to make sure rights holders can control and earn revenue from identified content, aka they would just make copyright content ID a little bit more robust. But the thing is, the rights holders, they don't want to do any work. They don't want to pay any salaries to do this and to have their stuff inventoried and sorted and have this applied fairly. They don't want to do anything. They want basically a return back to the good old days when this wasn't an issue for them at all. Sorry guys, it's the 21st century. It's over. Get over it. Suck it up. Again, sorry I'm getting mad here. Sorry. The digital advertising model is destroying the creative industry. Myth number 4. Ads and subscription businesses are growing, and that revenue is accelerating, fueling the fastest growth for the music industry in 20 years. In the last 12 months, YouTube paid the music industry over 1.5 billion euro generated from ad revenue alone. This twin-engine revenue machine provides 2 sources of income for content creators and artists. Ad-supported content also helps drive consumption and promotion of global music moments, like Despacito, in countries where people may not be able to afford a monthly subscription service. Yeah, it does. There's so much music that I've actually bought because I heard something on YouTube where I used Shazam. I'm a subscriber to Apple Music purely as a result of YouTube allowing me to discover new music and fall in love with it, and content creators who actually used some of it in their videos made me go, oh, well, what's that song? And then Shazam it. And so I wouldn't be paying for music in the amount that I do pay for, and I even still actually buy albums outright. Even with a subscription service, I still buy music, partly to support artists, partly to just have it and know I have it in perpetuity. And so I wouldn't be spending the kind of money I spend on music. Hell, I wouldn't have went and bought 2 HomePods and considering buying a 3rd HomePod if it wasn't for YouTube making me care more about music. I wouldn't have so many. I have like what? I got maybe $2,000 of expensive headphones, like because of that. Like, I mean, really. So no, it's not hurting anything. It's not. It's, in fact, it's making it more money than ever. I know I'm anecdotal in this of like what's my experience, but that's true for a lot of people. Again, if I'm representative of even a fraction of a certain amount of people, that's tens of millions of dollars if you think about my spending habits, scaled. So, I mean, that's just real. Myth number 5. Managing rights today on big platforms is an impossible case of whack-a-mole, making it too difficult for record labels to withdraw their works. Technology like YouTube's Content ID system not only helps right holders manage their copyrighted works automatically and at scale, but it can make them money too. Over 98% of copyright management on YouTube takes place through Content ID. In fact, to date, Content ID has paid rights holders over 2.5 billion euro for third-party uses of their content. However, Content ID only works if right holders use it and make clear what belongs to them. AKA, in other words, it ain't enough for them that they're making passive income that they would have never made if YouTube didn't implement this system, money that they would have never made from people. They've made 2.5 billion euro, which is probably about 3 billion US or close to it. They're not satisfied with that, and they're being lazy. They're being freaking lazy. So there you have it. That's, again, my opinion, but that's English translated to English for you. Myth number 6, YouTube already has the technology needed to comply with Article 13. YouTube's Content ID system automates right holders' ability to manage their copyrighted content at scale on YouTube, but it only works if right holders use the tool, make it clear what belongs to them. Under the current proposal, Article 13 would make YouTube liable for every potential copyright violation, even without being on notice. It's similar to holding a bookstore owner responsible if one of the books on its shelf contains plagiarized work. That's a really vivid analogy. Even rights holders don't always know who owns what, and YouTube's scale, 400 hours of video uploaded every minute, this is an impossible expectation to meet. It should be clear in the directive that collaboration between rights holders and platforms is essential, and that collaboration will better serve the underlying purpose of Article 13. That's the underlying purpose of Article 13 that they put out there, but you can clearly see that the reality is the agenda of the media companies. You can clearly see that they have an agenda, meaning that they're claiming, oh, we're being robbed, but the reality is not really, and not significantly enough to warrant this and the consequences of this. The issue and the problem is that old school legislators in the EU, the old whitewigs, as it were, the old guard, they're going to side with the corporations before they side with these snot-nosed millennials that they have so much contempt for. So, yeah, that's where, you know, I'm very skeptical and cynical about this whole thing. Someone's saying that someone should create a website that is free and will support memes and all this stuff. The problem is that this law means that no one can, which is my bigger point. Article 13 would make any platform and any website that anyone wants to build in the future liable, which discourages people from making social media websites if user-generated content is going to make them legally liable to large media corporations and the music industry, the film industry, where they can be sued into oblivion based on what their users do. So that means no one's going to want to make a social network. No one's going to make a competitor to YouTube. No one's going to make a new Vine. Because if you're going to be legally penalized by these companies, why would you build the next YouTube? So again, why would, what's the incentive if that's the case? And so, yeah, that's why this is such a problem, and that's why, and again, to cover it in depth, and even just to read the information YouTube provided, there's more stuff out there. It took me an hour to go through this. Granted, I added commentary. Even if I stripped out my commentary, it still would have been, 45 minutes just to unpack a lot of this and to get you guys up to speed. So, I mean, this is just a lot of old school thinking, and it's nonsense, and it's wildly problematic, and I'm against this because it's against the 21st century economy that I believe in, that I know and love. It's against meritocracy. It's against a free market. It's against freedom of expression. It's against everything I stand for. It's against everything that I stand for. So, I mean, my answer to it is yes, tweet, try to lean on and plead with these people and create awareness around it. But if they're going to pass this and they're already trying to and they're not going to change it, if you live in the EU, vote these bums out. And if you're in the US and they ever try anything like that here in the United States of America, again, my answer to it is this. If they ever try something like this in America, Every single one of us, users, creators, viewers, all of it, class action lawsuit, and directly, if they ever try to do Article 13 or something like it in the United States of America, sue the U.S. government and win. And again, also, in general, and again, I hate politics, and I really, really hate politics, and you know I avoid it at all costs on this channel. But my answer is this. If this is the way things are going to be, and if this is how the old guard is, and they're going to just keep siding with the corporations over and over and over again, and the corporate interest, again, I'm telling you, I'm kind of going on this like, I won't vote for anybody over 35 or 40 or whatever. Like, I won't vote for anybody older than, like, my relative generation. I'm 34. So basically, if I don't believe somebody has spent most of their adult life on the internet, I'll never vote for them again. I'll vote for whoever their opposition is every single time. I won't vote for anybody over 40 if I can help it, if that's how it's going to be. Because I can't trust people who can't use email to govern over the internet when it affects too many people and their livelihoods. I can't have people who don't know how to use email regulating the internet. I can't have it. Like, that's just me. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. I just can't tolerate that. I can't tolerate that. So I don't care where you stand politically in ideology. If the internet is part of your livelihood or part of how you get free education in the form of software tutorials or training or any of that, I'm like, okay, anyone anti-internet, you're dead to me. You're gone. Because, yeah, Gary Vee'd be the exception because he gets it. So, obviously, and I know old techies exist. I'm just setting a precedent in terms of it's a gross generalization because, yes, there are people like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone who get it. But they're exceptions, not the rule. And Gary can't run for president because he was born in Belarus. Or, you know, would I vote for Mark Cuban? It depends on where he stands on these issues. I believe he's in alignment with where we stand on these issues. But much as I don't trust him on other things, I would vote for Mark Zuckerberg. I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg, but I respect him. And I would vote for him because he's not going to be anti-internet and anti-21st century and anti-gig economy. But I worry about him on privacy. That's my one beef. But other than that, I don't have a choice in that. Like, if it's him, I don't have a choice just because I get 95% of everything. You see what I'm saying? I'll take 95% of everything that's good and suck up the 5% bad on Zuckerberg. If it's the choice between him and anybody, if it's the choice between Zuckerberg and anybody over 45, I pick Zuckerberg. That's just where I'm at. Unless it was someone like Mark Cuban, maybe, depending. Like, that's rough. Like, obviously, if Gary Vee could run, yeah, that. But, like, yeah, I would, again, I have my issues with Mark Zuckerberg, but it's like, I'll take what I can get. Like, give me another alternative. But yeah, Article 13 is a pain in the butt. It's like, it's problematic not only for YouTube content creators, it's not only problematic for the EU, but again, if you wanted to build a competitive social media app to compete with YouTube or Snapchat or Twitch or whatever, the problem is that no startup could bear the legal cost and liability that Article 13 introduces. Nah, I'd never run for president, but I would build something in terms of a media company or conglomerate that actually could hold one accountable. But yeah, I would never run for president. But I would try to make sure that, like, there's something in place in terms of free information that could hold one accountable if I were going to do anything that ambitious. I feel like there's more power clearly in either being a media company, because look at the media company's ability to influence Parliament in the EU. What's more powerful? Being in Parliament, being the Queen, or clearly being a media company? So for me, I think I'd have more power being the 21st century's version of Viacom than being the president of any country. I think that if you're a global spanning media conglomerate, you're probably more powerful than any single political leader. And so for those reasons, I would choose to be the owner and operator of a large digital media conglomerate, which is why, again, a lot of this matters to me. The difference is I would apply my leverage, I wouldn't apply my leverage necessarily against the little guy on some BS copyright stuff. I would use that leverage to fight for the freedom of information and the freedom of expression, and for the free and fair market on behalf of the consumer and the new digital entrepreneur of the 21st century. And as a media company or media conglomerate, you see how they have the power to influence government. So if I were going to do anything, I'd do that. Michael Hill says, I'm 50 plus, used bulletin boards back in the early 80s, and my business is SEO and internet marketing. It's not age, it's just backwards thinking. Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. I mean, there are plenty of people, look, a lot of my friends over 50, over 50, that are, digital entrepreneurs. Obviously, they hate this, and they hated all the anti-net neutrality propaganda. So I agree with you that there are people like that. Unfortunately, you would represent an exception, not the rule. I wish there were more people like you. I wish there were more people like you, Michael, in positions of power and authority, because then I wouldn't have to worry about this, and Article 13 wouldn't be an issue. Lewis, if you want to learn more about this, and anyone who wants to learn more about this because you missed the early part of the stream, please go to saveyourinternet.com and also bookmark this live stream, because, again, I unlist them because YouTube algorithm. But we covered it in the beginning of the stream. But basically, I was reading over information that you can find on youtube.com/saveyourinternet. I've linked to it in the bottom of the description down below. All the information is there. And also, I would advise you to watch Matt Pat, the game theorist and the film theorist. He did a video on this. So on Film Theorist, they have a video that is a little bit more concise here. It didn't cover all the things I care about, but it's a very good video. Yeah. Christy says, yeah, I don't think they want the average daily internet user to know about Article 13. No one seems to know about it, only content creators. Yeah. That was a cool trick. Where can I find the links to your older live streams? I have a playlist in YouTube that has all the live streams. So you have to go to the playlist section of my YouTube channel and hunt that down. And yes, you can share the link to this live stream. Feel free. Again, this is one of those things where the YouTube algorithm kind of punishes me for the live streams because of things like retention rates and watch time and averages and all these other little nitpicky things. But it's not a perfect system, but we still have it. But it makes me to where I have to unlist the live streams to not impact the other videos on the channel. James says all the sites I read are only talking about the music side. James, go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet. Do It Vehicle says no citizen of Europe asked for this. This is just power abuse. So I know that the European citizens didn't ask for it, which begs the question, who asked for it? The media companies asked for it. Do you think that they just suggested it politely, or do you think that there was campaign money? I mean, just a question. I think it's a fair question. Do you guys think that the rights holders, the media companies, the music industry, television, movie, do you think that they just asked the European Parliament, the EU Parliament, nicely to draft this legislation that is punitive toward the platforms, the creators, but not them in any way, and holds them with zero accountability? Or do you think that something so favorable to them also came with campaign contributions? What do you think? I'm asking the question. You know, I obviously have my own opinion of what I think happened, but I leave the question to you. Because, I mean, it seems ripe for abuse in only one direction. When something seems only to favor one party, one group, when something seems to favor only one entity, when something holds one entity to no accountability and offers no remuneration or punitive damages toward a specific person or group or entity or whatever, that's immediately suspicious to me as to, well, how did that come about? Like, how did we get there? Chris, Rewired Soul, thank you for the $2 super chat, buddy. Appreciate you. If you're in the EU, light up the phones. Nag these people every day. So, yeah. Like I said, if they ever try something like Article 13... in the United States, class action lawsuit. The content creators in the United States would band together, or they should, in that instance, and we'd just sue the United States government, and we'd probably win. And failing that, all the YouTube content creators would abandon any party lines and would vote against and market and promote anyone who's pro-internet and trash and drag anyone anti-internet remotely. Anybody who voted to end net neutrality, the YouTubers would get together and would just drag them, and it would overrun their marketing, their ads. The richest YouTubers would buy billboards dragging these people. Like, we would literally just go to marketing and guerrilla warfare if they tried this in the United States. That's what we would do. In the United States, that's how we would go. We would just, like roll like these people. Like, for real. There are enough big YouTubers in the US to where, oh yeah, like, this ain't happening. No, net neutrality was not pro-internet. Net neutrality was not pro-internet, Matthew. Not even close. I worked in the web hosting industry, so I have knowledge that the average person, even the person who thinks they're educated about this, doesn't. Because when you work in web hosting, you know about data transport, and you know about the dirty, grimy part of it, and you know about the local municipal level manipulation of that when it comes to bandwidth and when it comes to internet service providers, and how it's all carved up territories. It's almost like a gang turf war, if you will. It's like dealing with the 5 families, if you are familiar with, mafia rhetoric. So, no, net neutrality was not pro-internet. It was not pro-internet. It was not pro-creator. It was not pro-freedom of expression. It was not pro-freedom of speech. No. Net neutrality was a move by the internet service providers and telecoms who have a conflict of interest to be able to control, data distribution, what we call data transport. So, yeah. So they've abused it already. They have been throttling people. People have not been getting the speeds that they're marketed to with regard to specific websites. Net neutrality or rather, net neutrality is good. Voting against net neutrality is bad. Voting against net neutrality is bad. And it was something that was lobbied for by the internet service providers, and they had a conflict of interest because their parent companies also own digital streaming services that are, yeah, anti-net neutrality. That's what I'm saying. It's maybe it's how I'm communicating it. Like, yeah, anti-net neutrality was bad, and it was a move by the ISPs and the telecoms, who also, their parent companies, own competing services to things like YouTube and Netflix and so on and so forth. And so this was their revenge, so to speak, or this was their evil plot. And you know, again, it's really a dirty business. It really is. And ceding more control to them is bad. So, yeah. I disagree. We're not going to agree on this, Matt, because the thing is, it's like I'm not for big or small government. I'm for optimal government, and I'm for I'm for consumer protections where they're needed. And unfortunately, there are instances where the problem isn't necessarily the government. You see, through, as unfortunate as it is, through paying taxes, which is our money, which pays government officials, to some extent, and because they also need our votes, we have some say and some small amount of leverage as to how things are run. But unfortunately, if we don't, the corporations who have all the money, who can outspend and donate and do all of these things with no limitations, they have all the money, they can have the rules made in their best interest. And so if the government isn't able to stand up to the corporations on behalf of the voters and the consumers, primary example, no citizen in the EU asked for Article 13. No citizen in the EU asked for Article 13. The media companies voted for this, or wanted this, or put this on the table. The media companies put this on the table, and I'm sure some sweetheart. I wonder if some money went along with that in some way. Because I don't know. I'm not sure 100%. I can't, whatever. But I wonder if they got something for it, right? Like, I have to ask that question. So if nobody as a citizen asked for this, and the corporations did, and now the government is implementing it on behalf of the corporations with no net benefit to the consumer, well, one has to wonder. And so, again, if we don't have a voice and a say in what happens with our elected officials, then we might as well just be run by the corporations, and we know how that'll pan out. We might as well just be all owned by the corporations, and we know how that'll pan out, right? Because look at what's happening. They don't want competition. Think about it. Here's an example for you of understanding the problems here. You have YouTube legend, PewDiePie, a homegrown content creator, entrepreneur, does everything, in-house, came from nothing. Bootstraps and all, right? In terms of YouTube. And he came from a good family. But, he built something of his own. And now you have him competing for his 5-year, 6-year undisputed crown in YouTube with a media company, T-Series, out of India. No disrespect to them. And they're a business, and I respect that. But you have one creator putting out a video a day, competing against a company that can crank out 3 to 5 videos a day, and is a giant monolith of an industry compared to this solo creator with 2 editors has to compete with a media company putting out movies and musicals and shows on YouTube, and now it's competitive with the biggest small creator. So if you think about it, this is an individual who did it on his own versus, again, a small business, but still a relatively larger business than his. And if you consider that, you know, how does the little guy, and I know it sounds weird to call PewDiePie a little guy, but think about it. PewDiePie represents each and every one of us in the sense that he's a homegrown creator from YouTube. He's not a media conglomerate that dumped their intellectual property into YouTube. So it's, you know, it's this homegrown creator who's been on the platform forever against this, you know, media giant, you know. And if you think about that, whether you like him or when you hate him, whether you like him or hate him, whether you agree with him, whether you think he's controversial, again, you have to understand that what we're talking about is we're talking about, you know, a very small solo business, the equivalent of a mom and pop shop in YouTube, against this, you know, giant with like 100 employees. And he has to fight against that. And that's the new YouTube. So that's bad enough. That's bad enough. Okay? So think about that and how YouTube has changed to where it's not really just, you know, it's not just us anymore. You got the big media companies coming in here, taking what we built and what we made relevant. And then on top of that, you have them potentially influencing government regulation in their favor of our thing. Now, there's instances where the small person, the little guy, whether it's the consumer or the small business, sometimes benefits from government intervention, aka net neutrality, because the ISPs have no interest in you or I making something that can compete with them. So if we ever try to compete with a mega corporation, you know, there's a possibility that with net neutrality, that if I make something that's not in Comcast interest, they could throttle traffic to my website that competes with them in one of their other businesses. Because of net neutrality being gone, they don't have any real penalty for that. That is bad. The government slapping them on the wrist and telling them that they can't do that and that they have to treat my traffic fairly is the right thing for the government to do because I pay taxes. That's the right thing. So that's an example of when a government intervention, and I hate politics, but it's an example of where you can't be binary about this because there's an instance where, okay, they did the right thing if they keep net neutrality and protect the little guy so that somebody can build a competitor, because that's the fair market. That's the consumer deciding, okay? But then if they take something in the EU like net neutrality and they're influenced by the mega corporation when the consumer didn't ask for this, that's bad. So it can go either way. It can go either way, and that's why these topics are so hard, and there's nuance, and there's difficulty. So, you know, it's a problem. You have to parse these things. You can't just be binary about it. It can't be oversimplified. You know? So that's kind of where I'm at on this. Where I'm at on this is a difficult topic, and I hate the politics are even involved in it, but it's because this is EU parliamentary legislation that we end up having to have a civics discussion, so to speak, about this because of how it has the economics aspect of it, which is the thing I think we all really care about, is both the economics and the new digital economy, and that, but also the freedom of expression and the fact that it's being limited in the interest of corporations that just don't want to, one, be held accountable, and then two, they don't want to compete. Brandon from This Is Tech Today here. How are you, my friend? I'm good. If you want to read up on Article 13, because I know it's confusing, go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet and educate yourself about this issue. Andre, thank you for the $3 super chat. Yes, my coaching program is one-on-one. My group program is not. One of those things is more expensive than the other. All the information is over on Awesome Creator Academy, Andre. Let's see here. We've got Cosmic W. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry you got to go. Hybrid Steel says, as someone who lives in the UK, it's going to hit very hard to have everyone. That's the worst part. Yeah. Education's key for everyone. I agree, Lightsaber Addict. Corlin says, I'm from Germany, and our internet laws are crazy already. They change every week. If you don't have an imprint on your website, or if it's missing, you can get sued for up to 50,000 euro. That's insane, Corlin. That's insane. You see, that's anti-entrepreneurship. It's anti, you know, it's anti-fair market. I feel that's very wrong, in my opinion. Meeting place. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you, Roberto, for all that you do on behalf of the audience. Appreciate it. Rehan says, Roberto, U.S. is one country. EU is several countries who hate each other but can't survive independently. I think it's more nuanced than that. Paul, thank you, Roberto, for great info. Got to run. Dinner with your daughter. Yeah, go do that. Have a great one, Paul. Chris Winter says, can I get into your coaching program even with more than 350,000 subscribers? Chris Winter, absolutely, and I still think it'd be valuable to you because there's a lot we go into in the marketing and brand development side if you want to go into the group coaching program. Also, I do one-on-one coaching, which might be better for someone of your size. Chris Winter, feel free to hit me up via email or DM me over on Twitter at Roberto Blake. Would definitely love to follow up with you about that. So yeah, I mean, anyone who's interested in coaching, definitely hit me up at Roberto Blake, DM me, and I'll give you any information that doesn't answer your questions on my website. But yeah, would love to talk to you about that. But yeah, I mean, this whole thing with the EU and Article 13 is something that no one asked for. Well, again, the corporations asked for it, but viewers and users are being punished. Like, why are consumers being punished? And it's for a theoretical problem. They're trying to theoretically, like, they want to solve a theoretical problem, not a problem that actually exists in reality, and it's a problem that YouTube is offering them and the platforms are offering them tools to solve. And they're so far not being responsive or cooperative, and I have to think that there's something in play at work in the shadows there if that's the case. So if they don't decide to clarify the wording and make it specific, then I think that there's something wrong. I mean, this was also, and this is not the first time that the EU has done something like this. I mean, GDPR, people had to update their privacy policies and disrupt their business over that. MCRN says, Don V says, my country voted to join the EU 2 months ago. No one here knows about Article 13. What do you think we should do? I wouldn't even vote to join if I knew. Yeah, I think that that's definitely the right sentiment. If you want, you can find information at youtube.com/saveyourinternet, and they have some suggestions. I would suggest writing to your members of parliament, and I would say if they have a phone number, call them and ring off the hook and badger them about this. Les asked, is YouTube in on Article 13 or opposed to it? Also, aren't they themselves a big corporation that can fight these battles? They have limited resources to fight these battles because YouTube is barely profitable. The other thing is that YouTube has to be careful here and not come out swinging against Article 13. YouTube wants to compromise and wants to parlay, if you will, to barter to try to protect creators and obviously protect its own interest. So I feel that YouTube at its core and its culture is against this, but from a political standpoint, they can't say that they're against it. They say that they're for what it's trying to accomplish, but think that the current policy as written is wrong and misguided, and that there's a better solution, and they've offered it. So that's where it stands. La Tech Media says, it's mental here in the EU. When I mentioned GDPR, I spent months with my car dealer client to make sure everything was absolutely polished. Yeah, it's a problem. And again, I feel like this is wildly unfair to multiple industries. Suyahe says, if anybody was going to fight on behalf of YouTube, it would have to be Google, but I'm not sure they're going to fight, but instead compromise behind the doors. They're trying to compromise. I think that they're smart in taking that approach in recourse, and I think it's the only thing that they could really do. I wish that social media companies operated like supervillains, because I, as a supervillain, have some very simple solutions to this problem that mostly involve throwing money at it, at the right people, who will then do what you want them to do because you gave them money. But that's what I feel like. Again, social media companies in Silicon Valley are accused of being this evil cabal, and the funny thing is, if they operated like the Legion of Doom, we'd all probably be better off for it. Just saying. Can I make a shorter video about Article 13? Yes, I will make I'll script it, because to stay on topic and not fly off into a rampage, I'll have to script it. So I'll script that video. I'll script that video and direct people to links, and I'll address my main points, because that will help. Yeah. I wonder how much of my audience, generally speaking, is in the EU. And specifically, let's see how this would affect my channel, because I do know I have a very loyal audience in the EU. So what we have to do is we have to go to the lifetime stats of my channel. So let's go to the lifetime stats of my channel. Wow, that's a lot of watch time. That's a lot of views. That's a healthy amount of revenue. Lifetime of my channel. So what I can do is I can go to the subscribers page, and I can look at, this is lifetime, by the way. Like this is like all of it. This is all the data we have minus some periods of time where YouTube had outages on some of these features, or glitches. Thanks, YouTube. So this is lifetime. I'm still waiting for it to load. It's like frozen, but it'll resolve because it's pulling all the data. So we'll just hit wait. All right, awesome. Now what I can do is I can get the geography of my subscribers, and then I can put this into a pie chart. As you can see, most of my audience is concentrated in the United States. I still have a very loyal following in the United Kingdom specifically, but there are other countries that make up the EU. So, you know, there is that. Again, we're still waiting. YouTube's going to accumulate the data. Oh, we got a lot of people in the house saying they're from the EU. Hey, guys. And gals. You know. Alright, so, yeah. So I've got that. I want to load it into a pie chart, though. Alright, so... Why does it say other? Oh, maybe that's just... Okay, so it's consolidating anything that it can't add up enough numbers on. That's interesting. Wow, that is interesting. Half of my... Well, actually, technically less than half of my audience is in the United States. It's still the majority of the largest consolidation. But it seems that my global audience, through, you know, it nickel and diming a little bit, again, a good concentration in UK, India, Canada, that makes up a good chunk of it. But that's interesting that the rest are, when you add it up, from other countries. That's weird. Even I didn't know that. The majority is still in the United States, though. Over almost 150,000 in the United States. I'm actually surprised I have such a small following in Canada, though. And this is my lifetime data. So that's interesting. But it must be that all of these other countries representative of this stuff adding up. And there are a bunch of other like small things. But I also closed caption my videos, so that might have something to do with it. And then again, there's also a lot of, like, most of the content straight up educational. There's like hundreds of software tutorials on this channel, believe it or not. Between the Photoshop and Premiere stuff and other software, there's like hundreds of software tutorials on this channel, and I close caption almost everything, so I think that that accounts for the international audience. But even I didn't realize how big my international audience was. So I'd imagine that between the UK and some of these other, you know, smaller one-off countries, that when it all adds up, that I do have a significant audience from there. Let's check out the last 90 days. And see where we pulled subscribers from. In the last 90 days, it's the majority of the United States. And the UK, India, but there's a lot of English-speaking people in India, so that makes sense. But it's still a huge gap between that and who we got from the United States in the last 90 days. Last 30 days. And I think this is also YouTube's best guess. This is subscriber gains, net loss. So that's net. So this is gained, but this is net after you subtract any losses. Because every time I upload a video, YouTube dumps people. But the funny thing about that is, I'll show you guys something interesting here. Where is it? So the way YouTube handles this, which has always been really weird to me, is this, I know on the losses, represents a display syncing bug that we've been talking about that happens when people go to YouTube. Primary example would be, if I go to youtube.com right now, it's going to tell me that I'm not subscribed to certain people. If I were to hover over certain channels, it's going to tell me that I'm like not subscribed to. Like, I know for a fact I'm subscribed to Linus Tech Tips. I'm going to show you guys the YouTube subscriber glitch in real time. So it's telling me I'm not subscribed to Linus Tech Tips. Really? Watch this. I'm subscribed to Linus Tech Tips. I don't have notifications on for whatever reason. But look at this. YouTube.com is telling me I'm not subscribed to Linus Tech Tips, which means that if I clicked on this, I could end up unsubscribing or double subscribing and messing up Linus's stats, or me not getting the videos, or some other weird nonsense because of a syncing issue with YouTube.com. How many people does that happen to? Think about it. Look, YouTube.com. This is YouTube.com, and I'm logged in. I'm a subscriber of Linus Tech Tips. I'm one of the 7.4 million subscribers on Linus Tech Tips. So think about that. And here's YouTube.com telling me I'm not subscribed and baiting me to click on this, which would either unsubscribe me or mess something up. So, I mean, yeah. That's why people's analytics are wrong about them losing subscribers and where it happens, you know, with other YouTube channels or your YouTube channel or this or that. It's because of, and even YouTube Home. Look at that. So with YouTube Home and the subscriptions feed doing this weirdness, like, that's where you're losing subscribers. It's this. Because this doesn't just happen with YouTube.com. It happens in other places of YouTube. But think about it. I'm subscribed to Linus Tech Tips. We proved this. You see, I told you I can confirm YouTube's quality control glitches. I told you I know what I'm talking about with this. Look, think about it. YouTube.com. I'm subscribed to Linus Tech Tips. We're at Linus Tech Tips website. I'm subscribed. YouTube.com. Telling me I'm not subscribed. And then there are other channels where it tries to promote YouTube channels to you, and it'll tell you that you're not subscribed. And it'll do it in other places. So a lot of you, myself included, you're losing subscribers that you shouldn't be losing, and your stats are getting messed up because of this display bug. Now, granted, there are some people who just close accounts, and that's fine. I have no problem with this thing where it says, oh, we closed these accounts. Like, I'm totally cool with that, 110%. But what I'm not cool with is these kind of glitches that give me less subscribers than I normally would have, or at least do error reporting and manually, like, it might be unsubscribing some people, tricking some people into unsubscribing because of this display glitch. Because if somebody, you know, sees that they could end up double clicking, because, I mean, I could do it, and then would I still be subscribed to Linus? Or even if I unsubscribe, resubscribe, is there a guarantee that I would get his videos from now on? And it's little problems like this that's making YouTube harder. It's bad enough we have legislation like cracking down on social media, but it'd be nice if the website worked as intended. But you see, I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. So like, when I say these things, guys, I'm not crazy. It's like I showed you. La Tech Media says, I don't think it's a bug. You think it's by design. River Lead Guitar says, YouTube told me I wasn't subscribed to you, Roberto, a day after I subscribed to you. Oh, wow. That's great. That's hilarious. Yeah. Long Hair Pretty Nail says, YouTube is so messed up. I'm a member, a paying member of your channel, and I didn't get notified of this live stream, and I have to watch the replay. Yes, please watch the replay. And I'll make sure we get it out to people in the community tab and the members. Someone's asking, what software do I use for live streaming? I use Wirecast. Hybrid Steel says, Article 13 will take at least 2 years to go through if it gets 100% approved. Within that time span, it can be rewritten and messed with so that actually won't know what's going to really happen. Great, which means that if anybody from Parliament has to get votes or re-electioned or, you know, whatever it is that you guys do over in the EU with your representatives, vote the bums out if they don't fix anything or if they decide to go through with this. So that... You know, that's the the thing that I would say is, okay, cool. If they try to do this, then, you know, get them out of here. Throw the bums out. Dose of Dad says, I've seen it do this on the actual watch page if you land there from a Twitter or Facebook link. Really? So that would explain... Yeah, that would explain it here, too, in the data of where these unsubscribes came from. Yeah. So it's literally, yeah, I mean, look at it for yourselves. Like, YouTube is saying I'm not subscribed to Linus, but I'm subscribed to Linus. Like, how many other people is that messing with? Like, I mean, now it makes me wonder, what's, like, is it doing that in the subscriptions feed? What are they doing with the subscriptions feed? Let's... Are they doing chronological order, or is this algorithmic? What's manage say? Oh, it's interesting that prioritizes who's live right now. So I would assume that this is chronological. It looks like it's chronological. Well, thank goodness for that on some level. It does give an advantage to people who upload regularly. God, I can't remember the last time I was in the subscriptions tab. I think the last time I was in the subscription... Oh, PewDiePie uploaded. Last time I was in the subscriptions tab, it was... I was testing something because they did an update and it wasn't in chronological order and I was upset. But it was an experiment. So yeah. So that's interesting. Yep. So yeah, all of this is weird and frustrating and annoying. It's a problem. You know, guys, you know, read up what you can on it under youtube.com/saveyourinternet. And again, you know, educate yourself on it. If you want to make videos on it, please do. But I think this has many more unintended consequences than just being a content creator. I think it affects small business. I think it affects new platforms being developed. And I think that this is just, it's completely unfair and it's completely wrong. And I feel like this is dirty. Like, I mean, I don't have a polite way to say it. And I'm really curious about, I'm going to try and find out what actual companies pushed for this. Maybe those companies should be boycotted. I don't know. Your boy Sam asked, would copyright music in the background of my video stop me from getting monetized? Yes. Possibly. Especially now. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway guys, I'm going to look into this more. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for spending some time with me on this. I still think it's a great time to be a content creator. I still think more than anything, what I would say is people should build their personal brand. I think you should leverage social media websites within the confines and the ability that you have to use them. But I think that you have to use and leverage social media to build your name and to put yourself out there. But ultimately, you need to build your brand and control your reputation yourself, your body of work, and you have to diversify it, and you have to put it in some places that you at least can control. So I feel like something that's a lot more viable going forward are things like podcast, for sure. Obviously, owning your own website, which I've talked about. I've made many videos about that. Building your own email list and building your own product and your own service and your own name, and using these platforms as leverage to get yourself in front of an audience as best as you can. And even if that means curtailing some of your content, you have to curtail what you put out there maybe, but then when you get them back to your own website, it's your house. So that's what I would kind of like say about it, within reason, because there's still things you have to do and you have to abide by copyright, DMCA, fair use, and all of that jazz. But, I would say you have to, Lewis is right, you have to own your own digital real estate. And if you guys have watched my videos, don't just watch the how to grow a YouTube channel stuff. If you're serious and you want to be part of the 21st century economy, or you want to have a voice, I implore you, watch the other content that I put out, because it actually matters. Because here's the good news for me. I have my own website. I have multiple websites. I'm a public speaker, and I have a business and a coaching business, and I have LinkedIn, and I have a podcast, and I have the other platforms. And so a lot of my content going forward, I'll be very real with you, especially with this stuff going down, is I'm going to be talking about the other social media platforms more. I'm going to be talking about building your own website more. I'm going to be talking about launching a podcast a lot more. Like, a lot of my content lately has felt a little bit YouTube heavy, and I know a lot of you like that stuff, and I love YouTube too. I have my issues with it, but I love YouTube at the end of the day. But here's the thing. I think that owning your control of your income, if you're a content creator, is important, and you shouldn't rely on one platform. That's dangerous, right? No, like, diversifying your income is important. I talk about that all the time. I think developing high-paying skills, like, one of the things that I'm trying to teach you guys, besides this YouTube stuff, and that's a gateway, is I'm trying to teach some of you to get into video editing. I'm trying to teach some of you to get into design or to get into digital marketing, because that's a career. That's also a skill that you can build an income off of for the rest of your life. And I built an income outside of YouTube that gave me a 6-figure income outside of YouTube on top of YouTube. So I'm trying to get you guys to that. I'm trying to get a lot of you, to be very real, I'm trying to get some of you off of YouTube and into podcasting, because some of you would be better at podcasting. There are over 60 million YouTube channels, but there's only 1 million podcasts out there. So if you're worried about YouTube being competitive, I think that there is a lot of opportunity in the podcast world right now. I think a lot of you would do great on Instagram right now. Like, I think that a lot of you could build a brand in so many other places, and I think a lot of you could build a brand that leverages social media to bring traffic and awareness to your own website and to your own content and to your own thing. And so, I'm really trying to put more attention onto that, especially going into 2019 and over the next month, because it really matters. And again, it's becoming very restrictive to be in certain places, and there are a lot of other places that are a little bit more free. So I think that YouTube had an allure before the change in monetization policies and before the adpocalypse. I think that YouTube was very alluring in terms of a very accessible way to make a lot more money, in a decent turnaround. But that's not really the case anymore. You have people who have been waiting for 4 months to just have the opportunity to monetize. So, like, I believe in using the platform very differently than other people, because, again, I was making really good money marketing myself before YouTube caught up to these things and like became much more profitable for me. And I still make more money in my other diverse revenue streams than I do on YouTube, by far. So I think for a lot of you, podcasting, could be great. And I think that it's wildly accessible. And I think the equipment, to be honest with you, you could start a podcast on about $150 worth of equipment and free software. Like $150 and free software, and you could like have a serious podcast. I'm not even joking. I feel that there's still room in blogging. Blogging is actually still a really good idea. Copywriting is a six-figure skill if you do it right and if you market to the right people. And I really believe that a lot of you should consider building your brand by writing a book and selling it on Amazon and in iBooks and get your name out there. If you're a comic book artist, leverage Instagram and Pinterest and your own website. If you're a comic book artist, leverage Instagram and Pinterest and your own website and make merch about your comic series. Make dope shirts with your characters and stuff like that, or like make something interesting and sell it in Teespring, print on demand, and just go straight profit, because then you don't have to front any money. Like, write any book you want and sell it in Amazon. I mean, Andy Weir wrote The Martian, sold it in Amazon when the publishers told him down. Like, so, I mean, there's all kinds of strategies. Tom Gibson says, is your coaching business mainly the realms of helping others develop their YouTube strategies? No, my coaching focuses on building your brand and becoming an online business. YouTube is one avenue to that, and I offer some YouTube related products, but my coaching business is, there's plenty of people who don't have a YouTube channel that come to me for coaching. I even offer services reviewing people's Instagram. I'm about to offer a service to optimize people's LinkedIn profile for their, either their, like if they want to optimize their LinkedIn profile because they're building their personal brand or they're a public speaker, or they're trying to move up polish their LinkedIn because they're moving into another career field, or they're like going to switch or try to get recruiters or something like that, optimize their LinkedIn profiles. So I have a lot of services. I can help people with their YouTube channels, certainly, but I've also helped people with their podcast. I've helped people develop themselves as a public speaker. I've helped people with, updating, their stuff for their LinkedIn to optimize it for either their brand, public speaking, recruiters, what have you. So there's a lot. Building their online business. There are people who come to me to help develop their coaching business. There are people who came to me to learn how to market their e-commerce business. How do we use your service? To use my services or to hire me, guys, what you're going to want to do is you want to go to awesomecreatoracademy.com. And let's pop that up there on the screen. So yeah, guys, if you want to work with me, because there are people asking, and a lot of you didn't realize that I offer different types of coaching, I have awesomecreatoracademy.com. This is one of my online businesses. And so I have different things. I have a monthly membership group. You can join 100 of us over there. We have a private Facebook group. We have a private website with a lot of exclusive content, training modules. We also do monthly private calls and live streams. I also have one-on-one coaching where I do 90-minute calls and I work with people. We also have an option for people who want to do weekly calls on a recurring model. I have a course for those of you who are trying to make online video. It doesn't matter if you're doing YouTube or if you're doing Instagram or live streaming. If you are trying to produce online video and you struggle with scripting your videos, you struggle with not knowing what your camera settings or equipment should be, you don't know how to build a system for making consistent videos on a regular basis because you don't have time, you don't know, you don't have a quiet place, the kids are screaming, you don't know how to just do this stuff and make your videos better, I built a course called The Formula for Awesome Videos. Right now I've got a 20% off Black Friday sale. Just use the code Black Friday. Black Friday gets you 20% off, I think, on like everything right now except for the membership group. But everything else has 20% off with the code Black Friday for a limited time. For those of you who do care about YouTube, we got channel reviews. We got the YouTube Starter Kit. We're releasing the YouTube Analytics course. And, we've got some Instagram stuff, too, for those of you who are into that. And it's priced a little cheaper. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot here that I offer. And there's more stuff rolling out in the new year. In the new year, we have a course and a training focused on coaches. You know, there's going to be a course on public speaking that I'm rolling out that I'm really excited about, where, you know, I've taken everything that I've learned the last few years of being a public speaker. I've done over 70 presentations, over 50 events. And, you know, I've been on stage with the best of them. Gary Vee, Sean Duras, you know, Evan Carmichael. I've been at the same conferences as the top tier speakers in the world. Dan Locke, like, you know, VidCon, Vid Summit, Social Media Marketing World, you know, Podfest. You know, I've been at some of the greatest conferences, and there's more booked for next year. So we're going to be releasing a course on public speaking. We're going to be releasing a coaching course. We're going to be doing some other stuff revolving around LinkedIn. So yeah, there's a lot there. So just check out awesomecreatoracademy.com. And again, use code Black Friday and get a discount. So, yep. I think I'm losing my voice. Any advice on starting YouTube ads? Actually, financial phase, I can give you advice on starting YouTube ads. One of the things that I'm a big fan of is the concept of remarketing and sending ads directly to your subscribers. I'm also a fan of using remarketing and using display ad campaigns. They're wildly affordable. There's definitely some stuff you can do also with your email marketing that you'd be surprised how well and how lucrative that could be. So, you know, that's just something to think about. Yeah, Clover Tack, thank you for the $5 super chat, buddy. Happy to hear you talk more about options. I've been forced to partake of options and found YouTube is not the end all be all. Thanks as always. Yeah, like, yeah, it can definitely be rough. Ava Doe asks, is LinkedIn needed to be a public speaker? It certainly helps. It certainly helps. So Flourishes ask, does your podcast need a website separate to your blog website? It depends on how you brand them. You could consolidate them. You know, that is something to think about. It really depends on how you're positioning your brand. Yeah, there was really great discussion and engagement tonight. A lot of great questions. Achilles asked, regarding Article 13, honestly, from what I've read, I don't think it will affect YouTubers as much as YouTube is trying to show. Likely to get amended prior to approval. Your thoughts? I don't know if it's likely to get amended prior to approval, because you have to consider the possibility that there might be dark money involved. And that always makes things a toss-up. I also don't know how receptive the EU parliamentary is to amending this, and I don't know what pressure is being applied to them from the media companies, so it's one of those we will have to see. I don't think YouTube is wrong to emphasize the worst-case scenario here. I really don't. I think that this is a wildly important issue, and I think it affects more things than people realize. I definitely recommend that you watch the Film Theorist channel, Matt Pat. He did a video. It's about 16 minutes. It addresses a lot of it. It doesn't address all of it, but I think it's one of the best videos made about this topic. I'm going to be working on something that's slightly less entertaining. Spoon of Consciousness asks, Roberto, do you think Article 13 could create a window for opportunity for a YouTube competitor? I believe the opposite. I believe the absolute opposite, because this would hold any platform financially and legally liable for any infringement of copyright. No YouTube competitor can arise because no small business or startup can take that legal liability. From a user-generated content platform standpoint, it actually eliminates any potential competition to YouTube or any of the other social media platforms. It would crush the innovation of new platforms. You have to really look at what it says in terms of that legal and financial liability with regard to copyright infringement. All it would take is one person uploading a movie or a television show or part of it to crush a new platform under the weight of those kinds of litigation. So no, it's not something that creates more room for competition. Again, I feel like this was a myth that it was put out there, and I feel like this is a myth that's put out there even with net neutrality, that, oh, it's great for the competition or the consumer. No, it's not. So I would say that, that's something to think about. Heart of the Rebel says, my reputation and brand have been destroyed by YouTube trolls. We'll be getting consultation from you. I may have to change my name for business purposes. Let's definitely discuss it. And remember, use code Black Friday. I think that's running through the first week of December to get 20% off. Financial Phase says, thank you for the response. I don't have an audience to remarket to yet, though. Thoughts on Instagram ads, best budget for a newbie to get reliable data? I think there's a lot of things to unpack there, and I think it really depends on who you're targeting and what your offer is. Also, I don't think that you should rule out pushing paid traffic to a free lead magnet that can grow your email list and then build an audience through an email list. So I think that that's definitely interesting. CC Uncut says, I just purchased the YouTube Starter Kit and I'm still clueless. Yeah, the YouTube Starter Kit should be straightforward. You do need something that can open .psd files, which are basically Photoshop files, CC Uncut, which could be either Photoshop or GIMP or Affinity or photop.com or Pixlr. So there should be any number of options for you with regard to the YouTube Starter Kit. Let's see here. So CC Uncut, if you have the YouTube Starter Kit, there's a tutorial on how to customize thumbnails. So definitely watch that tutorial. It's in there. And again, you have the ability to just download the different resources, and they are zip files. So that's all you need. We've had over 600 people purchase the YouTube Starter Kit. There's over 160 download assets. So with the YouTube Starter Kit, it's basically templates for you to be able to build your YouTube thumbnails. And right now we have 8 different sets or 7 different sets. Actually, we have 7 different sets. I haven't released Content Pack 8 yet, which is our fall updates, fall/winter update. But there is a tutorial for you to watch, and you just have to download these, and you just have to open them with something that can open Photoshop files, and then you can make any of your assets for your YouTube channel artwork or your thumbnails. So that's all you really have to do. So yeah, it shouldn't be that confusing. CC Uncut, just please follow the directions in the YouTube Starter Kit, and you should be just fine. Team Autism Pedia, hey Roberto, great meeting you at Vid Summit. Just launched Patreon. All right, awesome, good for you, man. Potato Hippo, I would imagine that gaming channels and movie review channels and all of it is pretty much out. Northeast Angler, for the information on Article 13, if you're not going to watch the replay, go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet, and you'll get up to date on this. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the stream. It's a 2-hour stream. I think that we covered what we needed to, and I appreciate the thoughtful commentary, the super chats, the questions. So I think that that's where we're going to leave it. Again, guys, to get more informed about this, go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet. They've done a great job of putting together resources, putting together the facts, clarifying any misleading information. So please go there and educate yourself as much as possible. It's linked in the description down below, so make sure you're doing that. This is important, and they covered it. A lot of creators have made some concise videos, so definitely make sure you're doing that. Dimmy, thank you for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you. Yeah, Freedom Hustler, you missed the majority of the stream, so we're wrapping up now. But just bookmark this URL, because once YouTube's done processing, it'll be available. It'll just be an unlisted video because, unfortunately, the algorithm sucks. So we aren't publishing the live streams as a public video that looks like a regular upload. Nope, we've stopped doing that because the algorithm sucks and it's punishing us and a lot of other people. There are a few exceptions. That's why some people are starting whole new channels just for their live streams. So, thanks YouTube. But yeah, but this will be unlisted. So anyone who's bookmarked the URL for this live stream can still access it, and I will be putting it in the community tab at some point after it's done processing. So I'll make sure that you guys have access to it that way. So just please check back and check the community tab, and you'll have access to the information. Also, again, I will later this week write a scripted 12-minute video or 8-minute video that gets over the concise points of this. We'll try to get that information out for people. Les, Mike, thank you for the super chats. Appreciate you. But yeah, we'll try to get some more information out about this. But again, this was the off the cuff, me ranting and yelling for about an hour and a half about why this is horrible and walking through the information. I definitely recommend watching Matt Pat's video, the film theorist, on this film theory. He did a great video about this on his channel about 5 hours ago, so definitely make sure you watch it. I think he did a very good job of putting together the information, and he kept it somewhat entertaining. My 10-12 minute video on this that'll come out later in the week will be much more dry and bland and will involve me trying not to scream, but it'll be up. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. Thank you for tuning in. Again, thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for all the members. And again, anything you guys want, you can hit me up at Roberto Blake in Twitter. Feel free to hit me up there with questions. Always happy to keep the conversation going. Make sure you're checking out the resource links in the description. I'm going to have the live stream music play our outro for a little bit so you guys can get access to that. For anything you guys want on discount, remember, use code Black Friday at awesomecreatoracademy.com to get 20% off products and services. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I will be back this week with more video content. I'll have some video editing content. In fact, I'm actually doing a new PC build, so stay tuned for 2019 video editing PC build and things of that nature. We'll be covering some video editing software, what you need to know. We'll be covering the new updates to Adobe Audition. I found a new way to clean up bad audio, and so we'll do some tips on that. And also, I'm debating putting out a fun and very, very positive, but a fun story time video about my time hanging out with Casey Neistat when I was in New York earlier this month, and 368 and Creator Thanksgiving. Guys, let me know in Twitter or in the community tab if that's something you guys want, if you want me to edit that video, because again, it's not exactly, Casey's in the video, and there's stuff where we're and Peter McKinnon's in the video actually too, but it's not a YouTube collab. It really would be some B-roll of us, everybody hanging out at Creator Thanksgiving, and it would be a lot of me reiterating to you the story, and also things that Casey taught me and told me, like, you know, off camera and just reiterating it. So it would be kind of like a true story time video, if you will. So if that's something you're interested in, I have the footage. Could definitely make that video. So again, just let me know if that's something you guys are interested in at all. Real quick recommendations for videoing software for PC. Adobe Premiere Pro, because of the ecosystem, or and how good it is, to be honest, and the fact that I use it, or DaVinci Resolve because it's free and it's very powerful. And if you're trying to build a cheaper PC, DaVinci Resolve works very good with AMD. So Premiere Pro is going to be Intel and NVIDIA, which is going to be a little bit more expensive. I could build something, if I built something for DaVinci Resolve, it would cost me 30% less in hardware to build something competitive for DaVinci Resolve. But Premiere Pro, I think, is better long term, and I like it better personally. And there's a lot more tutorials and content and people that can help you with it. So my preference is always going to be Adobe Premiere. I'm very much an Adobe person. I'm an Adobe fanboy. I owe a lot of my career to being able to use Adobe software from the time I was young. That's how I got my first real jobs in the industry. And it played a huge role in my success. You know, in full disclosure, I do work with them from time to time, but I was promoting them long before I ever had a relationship with them. Because again, I built a lot of my career around using their software. So, you know, that's kind of where I fall on it, but I'm just disclosing that I might be biased. I've used like everything, and I own everything, and I paid for everything. But I do favor Adobe because of my own experience with it. But it's interesting though that technically you could argue that I favor Apple products, but I'm hypercritical of Apple as a company, but I still recommend and prefer their products, and you could argue that I have a bias towards Apple because I still more go the Apple route and ecosystem than not, and recommend it even if I have complaints and gripes about it. So you could argue that I have an Apple bias in favor of them, but that I'm objective based on how critical I am of them. So, I mean, you know, there might be a video in the future about bias in like tech reviews or something. I don't know. I'll see how I feel about that. That's probably something I'll save for 2019. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, go to youtube.com/saveyourinternet to learn more about Article 13. You know, and follow up with that. And again, fight for your internet. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay awesome, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.